Welcome, Reanimated fans, to this week's podcast. I'm H.A. Conrad, coming to you from Brooklyn. Joining me is my amazing, incredible, intrepid co-host, Stuart Tiffin. Hello, Stuart.
Jolly good, pip pip.
Back from across the ocean,
Old Blighty.
eating his favorite cuisine of all
I
time.
mean, some of it was good. I had some good curries.
There are some really good curries. I've had some very nice fish and chips and other things in London. Um, in fact, so good that you can't find it here in the same way. So, um, and other food as well. But glad you have returned. Um, glad you did not get overtaken by the heat wave that was over there, although it was pretty steamy, I think.
It was a little steamy, but yeah, it wasn't the 100 degrees level of steamy. We're
Paris
still,
is having a rough time of it right now.
man, I feel really bad for Europe in general, but yeah.
Yeah. But today we are going to be talking about the Vampire Lestat, the first two episodes, and we actually have quite a bit of news to get into before we get to that. So going to kick it off with this pretty incredible news item, which is about The Walking Dead, um, basically the licensing streaming rights.
Sorry, can
Um,
I just interrupt you?
sorry.
What part of this is incredible to you? Like unbelievable?
More so the second part that we talked about, which is, for the price tag attached, it's not exclusive.
Right, that
Um,
is big
that
deal.
is
But
the
that's is that also unbelievable given
eh,
AMC's mercenary nature about this
not
franchise?
not unbelievable. Just I think I don't know. Just given some of the deals that we have seen, I'm a little surprised that there wasn't some kind of a thing attached to it. But I don't know. More stuff comes out about this. So, uh,
Yeah.
but
The
what we're talking about,
$500 million for the rights to stream Walking Dead franchise, all of it, I think, was the deal. 300 and something episodes. It's a lot of content
right?
on Netflix. And I think also in England, I think it's maybe global, but I definitely saw at least one headline that said it'll be streamable in the UK too. And maybe that's why it was so expensive, is because they got worldwide rights.
Maybe. I mean, it is a lot of it's a lot of shows. It's a lot of property.
Yeah.
And speaking of, we have some news that Daryl Dixon, the last season of that, is going to be delayed until 2027. And there's a little bit that says that they're doing this strategically just to take advantage of timing, releasing it, all of that.
Yeah, City
Um,
of the Dead has not yet been renewed as far as I'm aware, which
mm,
could mean that the final season of Daryl Dixon could be the final season of any Walking Dead show, or at
yeah,
least that no other Walking Dead shows have been announced.
yeah,
And that would be it's been 17 years
yeah. A lot.
since we haven't had Walking Dead on the TV, so it's kind of wild.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess part of me thinks that this was just to have it a little bit spaced out from City of the Dead. And so we'll have to just hear a little bit more news about that. And but you know, that'll be an interesting bookend if that ends up being true.
Yeah, will you like have an existential crisis if Walking Dead goes away and that's the end of
Yeah,
it?
there's so much to do, and I just have a suspicion it's not going to be. I think they will reimagine, redo, re-something. Um, so I don't know. I have some faith in Angela Kang. I think there could be interesting things down the line, so we'll see.
She's moved on, hasn't she?
I
Surely.
know, but I can always hope.
Maybe they'll sell the rights to Neil Blomkamp,
Oh gosh, I
the South African director of District 9, which was a good film, and also Elysium, which was a good sci-fi film, I thought. Um,
yeah.
and now he's come out with a 13-minute AI demo reel,
Ooh,
which he's done a lot of these kinds of things and released them onto YouTube before. But this is the first time he's done it pure full AI. And
yeah,
it's
not
a
good.
zombie story, and it's called Nightborn, and it is hot garbage.
Yeah, it's really bad. It's really, really bad.
Like apparently he was doing this all through text prompts, and like, he is quote unquote directing this film, and you can watch it on YouTube from Barley Studios. And he's like, now that I think the technology is ready, we can create a feature film in this model. and it's oh God, like the dialogue, the acting,
Yeah,
it's not good. It's just
it's
not good.
no. But I will also say this technology is developing, and as garbagey as this is, you can imagine a scenario where this becomes better. And so that's a little bit concerning. Um,
Yeah.
so
I mean, it is going by leaps and bounds, but I think the it's never gonna make it past the uncanny valley, I think. Or if it does, that'll be a true leap of technology that when you can like mimic micro reactions and like actual human faces and the way that people talk to each other, maybe then we'll actually need to be really concerned. But right now, this is still pretty obviously fake.
yeah, and I don't know. And it's going to be, I think what's going to happen, and I think that there's so many concerns, not just about, this kind of a thing in terms of what this means for the film industry, what it means for the Actors Guild, Writers Guild, everybody. Um, like, I think, we're going to see this play out just in terms of people, like, because if you don't need people, if you don't need writers. Although, I mean, I think we can both agree that they definitely need actors and writers in this thing because it's so bad. But
And presumably it was written by Neil Blomkamp because he wrote the prompts. And maybe if the same
right,
dialogue had been produced by human actors, it wouldn't have felt so stilted and crappy, but it did.
yeah. So anyway, more to come on that, sadly. And we will, um,
Yeah, I hope the day does not come where we're reviewing an AI film.
yeah.
I
Um,
don't think I'll have any passion for it at that point.
I will say when, because you like, I saw this kind of going around, and people, there's a Nightborn movie with Rupert Grint. Have you seen that?
Oh, like a real film named Nightborn?
Yeah,
Oh dear.
which is super disturbing. If you look at the trailer, it's like bad, also bad and disturbing, but in a different way.
Wait,
So
Ron Weasley, Rupert Grint?
yes,
Uh,
yes. Yes. But it's Nightborn without the E.
Yeah,
So,
okay. And that
uh,
came out this year.
yeah, so you gotta check it check out the trailer alone. But anyway,
Oh
um,
God, yeah. I saw a still from
right,
this. It,
right.
it looks like
It
this
looks
room
like,
looks like Good Night. Wait, what's that kid's book? Good Night Moon?
yes, it does. I think that's
Is that on
deliberate.
purpose?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think so. But anyway, also a terrible looking trailer, but for other reasons. Um,
Okay. Like terrifying as
yeah.
opposed to shoddy,
Yeah, but
shoddy.
also very there's like definitely like a I would say a campy weird thing to this. In other news, we've got the undead making its way into commercials, commercial products,
Yeah, a
selling
few different
kind of
commercials.
weird.
It's been a while since we've seen more than a one-off
Right.
commercial. Like for a while there.
And
Now,
it's
like, we're talking like
usually
15 years ago.
and it's
zo-
usually around Halloween or something. It's not usually
Yeah.
just out
Yeah,
in the
right.
wild.
Now it's like August and what there's a shoe commercial that's about how comfortable these people's shoes are and how that makes their life in the zombie apocalypse better.
Hmm.
And then there's a Korean company, or is it Ulta K? I don't know if that's a Korean company, but they're advertising makeup or moisturizer to stop people from looking like zombies because your skin is always dying. Um, but yeah, having two zombie commercial stories in one week does feel like
Yep.
the tide has turned.
Maybe it's early days for Halloween. I don't know.
Could be. They're just trying to get ahead of the other zombie ads that have already been made.
And speaking of Halloween, there is the Riverdale spinoff that we've talked about a couple of times, Afterlife with Archie, and that is going to be coming to us, but not for this Halloween, Halloween 2027, I believe.
And on
Um,
Disney Plus
yep.
and live action, we're thinking.
It looks like it.
I mean, Riverdale was live action, so why
Yeah,
wouldn't it
so
be?
when it seems like that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, one other piece of Disney adjacent news that I don't know if you saw this week, but Mahershala Ali has like officially fired the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He said, you know, if they wanted to make a Blade movie, which that was what his role was going to be,
Hmm.
they could have done it by now. And
Oh,
so I
I did
think
not see that.
he's walked away from that role if
Interesting.
because it hasn't happened and it's been like 8 years or however long, and that hasn't been that long, but it's been long enough that he's like at least got one Oscar, if not two. He's like,
Yep.
yeah, I don't need to be on the hook for this project.
Nah, I don't blame him. Uh, that's a long time to be on the hook. So,
And then finally, speaking of things being on the hook, the
mm,
LA Times had to read an article this week in their entertainment section, like, "Hey, Last of Us fans, it's okay, don't worry. The show hasn't been canceled because apparently um, people on the internet were worried that when they went on hiatus for the World Cup, which we managed to cover without starting a panic,
right,
that's
with the
because
debate.
they some people on the internet were like, that's it, it's over, it's not going to happen. And apparently this LA Times article says no, it's resumed. And there was another tidbit in here that it wasn't from Craig Mazin himself, it was from another guy who's working on the show with Mazin,
Hmm.
but basically that they haven't still haven't decided if it's going to finish after 3 seasons or four,
Hmm.
which this far into production I'm a little bit surprised to hear.
Yeah, me too. So we'll have to keep tabs on that. Um,
Tabs will be kept.
yeah. But without further ado, I think we should be talking about the Vampire Lestat.
What I saw people writing about this show, like I think it was AV Club. They were like, oh, they've rebranded or reinvented the show. And I'm like, no, they haven't. It's just this is how it goes in the books. Like
Yeah,
suddenly it's from a different POV, but
and
really it is like a complete different show.
it is, and that's primarily because it's from
Yeah, and I
that
understand
viewpoint.
why too. But it was cool to watch the after the episode interviews with the cast because they're
Yeah.
talking about their characters in these like,
Hmm.
yeah, you know, he's really selfish, but I don't know, like it's just cool to see these guys being able to now portray their characters the way they would act from another character's perspective, you
Yep.
know? And I really enjoyed that, especially I guess I'm talking about mostly Jacob Anderson
Yeah.
as Louis. He gets to be a different kind of version of Louis. It's not really that crazily different.
Yeah.
Like Jacob Anderson describes him as trolling
Yeah.
Lestat in some
Yeah.
scenes, and yeah, it does feel that way. And it's kind of that was kind of cool to see them really approach it from maybe a subtly different angle, but you could definitely feel it.
Yeah, and I also think within even these episodes, immediately Lestat's narrating and you get his little voiceovers here and there, but there's also a moment with Louis, with Jacob Anderson's character, where he's talking like there's just so much unreliable narration going
Oh
on
God, yeah,
many
that's yeah.
on many levels. So it's like you don't fully know, and not just in the telling of the story, but in the unfolding of the story and the visuals, especially,
And the chronology, right? Like
the
we
chronology.
start maybe present day, but then we're back in time, and I think we're gonna be in a lot of different time periods throughout this season.
Now, I'll admit to you, I intended to read the book, but I have not gotten around to it. And I will say this is definitely like there is a lot of embellishment, reimagining on, and especially on one specific point. Or it's not like we'll get there, but um, they have definitely had to, and they did this in the
Well,
interview.
Daniel Malloy doesn't show up in the book at all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And then there's a lot related to the character of Gabrielle.
Yeah,
That people are fighting
are we
over.
talking about the incest elephant in the
Yeah,
room?
yeah, and it's not. I mean, it's kind of there, but not. But we can talk about that.
It's pretty damn there in the show.
Oh no, that's what I'm saying. Like we
Yeah,
don't.
I know.
This is
It's
not.
just wow.
But there's a lot of where, sort of how Anne Rice presents any of these things in the book is that basically human sexuality and morals are just not even present because these are entirely different beings, and
Yeah.
Louis actually sets himself apart because from all of these because he does retain some of those human, like they always talk about like his human soul and how he moves and talks and thinks and acts more like a human than the rest of them do.
Yeah.
So that's something that I'm sure is going to unfold later on in the story, but yeah, the Daniel Malloy piece is it's definitely how they're kind of pushing tying these two things together and pushing the story forward, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing, but it does he's a little too over the top.
Yeah.
I find him to be kind of annoying in this, but maybe
You mean
that's
Eric Bogosian's
yes.
performance? Yeah.
Yeah, I find it just to be a little bit grating, and I mean, I'm maybe he's supposed to be,
Well,
but
he's more annoying than he was even as a
yeah,
human now. Now that he's a
yeah,
vampire, he's got that brash sort of I know everything and I'm the smartest guy in the
yeah.
room sort of
And
thing.
it's kind of a question that why would this even be tolerated because he's so annoying?
I
So
mean,
I
he's
don't know.
competing against Lestat, so
Well,
also a
yeah,
famously annoying guy.
who is annoying but kind of endearing too.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Never more endearing than when he's losing his mind with how upset and angry he is.
yes.
And there's scenes in both of these episodes we're talking about today, which are Detroit and Toledo,
Oh my goodness.
where he like when he's going through the book when he first has
Oh
the
my
book in
gosh,
his and
amazing.
he's losing his mind about it. And then later I think it's in the Toledo episode when he's sitting across the table from Louis,
Hmm.
and Louis is has evoked a an emotional response from him, and it is
Oh my
Sam
God.
Reed, man. I love this dude's
I
performance.
he is so good. He is so good. And
And
there
his
are
performance as his body double is also
yes,
I didn't
yes.
realize that was him. It was
I
so
know, he
so
was so
different.
good. So good.
Really, really funny.
But anyway, yeah, so let's get into it, I guess.
Yeah.
And I guess like one of the big things about the character Lestat, which I think they have captured like so well, is the fact that he is very much into performance. He's into the outrageous. He's into just over performance and like and gestures that are just so over the top. And that really just kind of kicks it off with, this auction, which is there's a lot of little things that he's dropping into this narrative, which gets me excited for what happens later on. Um, and we can talk about that. So I do know a little bit of this, and anybody who watched the movie or I don't know that I watched the full thing because they weren't very good. But the movies that came out, like The Queen of the Damned and
Queen
stuff
of the
like that.
Damned I walked out of in the theaters.
Yeah, it was really bad.
Too bad.
And so there's some little things that he's dropping, but this is basically, a little bit of a look back, but they're at an auction and this is the mechanism by which they tell the story is that there's this auction where you can listen to his like basically personalized diaries on vinyl and all this other stuff. Um and um and then there's all their recordings that then go up in flames after somebody buys it. It's like
Well, no,
really
it was before they even
sorry
got to.
before they bought it, before
It's
they
not
bought
like the Banksy, I think, which had just
it.
sold for millions of dollars. But yeah, they're obviously ripping off that. And this is it's a moment where Louis can have a quiet laugh to himself. Like, yeah, that's very Lestat to do
Yeah,
that,
and he
right?
was laughing. It was like
Yeah.
very funny.
And
So,
Louis and Armand are in this auction, and they both look messed up. Like Armand is missing an entire eyeball, apparently. And at first when I saw him, I was like, "Wait, was that in season two?" And Louis is walking with a cane, and they're both looking super messed up. So this is the way the show is nodding and letting us know that
something big has happened. Yeah.
something huge has gone down. Um, and I think they have actually said it out loud, like and all the calamities that came as a result of yada yada.
Yep.
And so this is supposed to be like Lestat's posthumous estate auction, I think, also. These two
Yep.
lots, which are really just his music or his music and his diary, perhaps, um, are yeah, we can take away from this that he is dead, and now his is like his last confession is on these multiple records, along with a bottle of port and a bottle of champagne from like 400 years ago. Not a bad prize, honestly.
Not
But I
bad.
think the betting was up in like the tens of millions of UN.
Right.
Anyway, so that is the opening scene for the show, and then once the auction happens, and I don't remember if we see who wins it, but like Raglan James from Talamasca was bidding, Louis was bidding, Armand was bidding. There were some other bidders in there too, but I don't remember if we saw who won it. Do you?
Sorry, what part?
Who won
Oh
his
no, we don't
the
know who
failures?
actually won the bid.
Yeah.
But you can imagine that there, because his blood supposedly is in
Oh
within.
yeah, there was a bottle of his blood, not
Right.
champagne. That's right.
And that is a
That's
pretty valuable thing.
yeah.
And we find out why later, but
And they
he
keep
keeps
talking
talking.
about it. Like it's
He
not even a
keeps
secret.
no, he keeps talking about it, and we
He's
can
like, yeah, it's got the blood. I've got the blood of the queen or something
of
in me.
Akasha. He says it like 5 times within
Yeah.
these 2 episodes, and so that is pretty valuable to the vampires.
But what's interesting is that they're doing this perhaps for book readers. The fact that they haven't explained who Akasha is yet in this show. So people who are coming into this, I feel like what they're doing is kind of nice for the audience, where they're just either assuming that they're going to know, or assuming that even if they don't know, they're going to be smart enough to be able to keep up, right? Like it's that thing where they're just kind of showing you, and they're not going to wait. They're not going to be like, okay, and so Akasha, they'll get to it eventually in this season for sure, because I think we've seen
Yeah,
even clips of it
we've
in
seen
trailers.
trailers. Yep.
But like they're going to start off talking about her like we all know who she is in a way.
Yeah.
And I kind of appreciate that
I
as
do
a
too, and they make it a big deal. I don't think at this point we fully get that, but you think about that after he starts talking about it in, I think it's this episode or it might be the next episode, but
both. I think there's mentions of it.
it's when the fights in there's a big fight in this first
Yeah,
episode
when he's
where
all hammered, he just I
right,
think that's
and
his inner
so
monologue. Well, he's even his like dictation
right,
in his records, which is the voiceover we're hearing. It also seems to reflect how many drugs he's on in these scenes.
right, right. He's got a lot going on.
He does have a lot going on. But so that first scene of the auction then takes us to he's living in Montreal, which I thought was
Right,
an
so
interesting
fun.
choice, and he's FaceTiming with Louis, and I don't remember if there was a lower third like title card here, but we can kind of quickly understand that it is a flashback because this is when
Yep.
he realizes that there's been a book published. The interview with the vampire has been published.
Well, this is like kind of a funny scene because he's playing the piano. He and Louis are obviously having a bit of a flirty but sweet conversation. And suddenly these alerts start popping up on his iPad.
Hmm.
And then, it's revealed the whole book is out, and suddenly he's just off the deep end.
I mean, even the question like, Louis,
Right.
do you know who's
I know.
Daniel
And
Malloy
you
is?
see, and Louis' face in this is so
He
great.
looks off camera, and
Like,
just goes,
uh, um,
Yeah, and then that bookstore scene I thought was actually very funny too,
it was
partially
excellent.
because I think, I mean, the two clerks are just having this like inane conversation,
Right.
and we have the first of several scenes of Lestat just like screaming at people and
Yep.
losing his mind here.
Yeah, but the funniest thing is just before he gets to the bookstore, there's a little thing with Louis. Like, I'm sure it won't be a big deal. It'll blow over in a week or so. Nothing
Yeah,
for you to worry about. And then it's like this whole huge phenomenon, and the bookstore's like full of the books.
yeah, they're
And
all trying to buy the book. The clerks are talking about how they want to lick Armand, but they
yes,
don't like Lestat, and yeah, so it's obviously a best-selling sort of. It's got the
yep,
zeitgeist.
yeah, and he's very upset about it. And I like, yeah, it's his his frustration and his you know, he immediately begins reading and like highlighting this book um to counteract it. And there's a lot of really funny things. And I mean, this is like almost an immediate confession or flag that we're seeing all of this from his perspective. And he brings this up multiple times, but he talks about how in the book the like it doesn't talk about his scars. He says they have my hair length all wrong. It's above
Yeah.
my shoulders in the book, and it's obviously long and luxurious and all this other stuff. And then specifically is talking about a few scenes that he claims did not happen. So and just his portrayal, he feels betrayed and really, and I think that you at least I saw that this was really hurtful because it did feel like him and Louis were starting to reconcile or come to some kind of peace, and this seems to have blown it out of the water.
And I
So,
also think what's interesting here is that Louis has also been betrayed because
right,
he did not tell Daniel
right.
Malloy that he could publish
Yes.
these interviews.
Well, he
Um,
also did not, at least, and we see in the second episode, he claims that some of the things that Daniel Malloy were absolutely false that he put in there. So, and Louis feels his portrayal of him is false.
yeah,
So we got a
just
lot of
a lot of betrayal
yeah.
going around.
So
And
we
then all
got
these characters are thrust together in this season.
yeah,
So that kind of is a nice way to, assuming that people have watched the first two seasons, now we have these characters who we've spent a lot of time with in the two previous seasons. And they all have beefs with each other. And so this is an interesting place to start out. And then against the backdrop also of a switched POV and Lestat's sort of, you know, his tempestuous nature. And then very quickly he kind of thrusts himself into this band, who also are all kind of established characters by the end of the first couple episodes. I like the way that the show has not the super developed, but we're starting to get to know the his bandmates,
right.
especially his attorney, who's not a bandmate, but might be my favorite character in the show
Yeah.
so far.
He's interesting. So,
Christine.
yep. Or she's the lawyer, but so
Yeah.
not technically, but part of what I would call
No, but
his
I mean, just as part of the like
entourage. Yeah.
the ecosystem of his band.
Yeah, yeah, but she's fantastic.
Yeah, and especially in Toledo, where she's sitting at a table negotiating with three
That was so good.
vampires and holding her own. I really liked that scene a lot.
Yep. That scene was hilarious, actually.
Yeah.
Um,
So he meets there are these they live across the street from him. He's tired of their music, but then I think he might have gone over there to kill them, as is often
yeah,
the case with Lestat, but then kind of changes his mind and instead somehow he becomes the front man for their band.
right. And you know what's funny about Lestat, and I think that this not funny, but this is just a defining characteristic is that he just has completely like unregulated emotions and he feels things very deeply and then he just impulsively kind of goes and does things and then often tries to take it back or is sort of in the process of having these outbursts or these incredibly strong outbursts of emotion and feeling um ends up in a different place, like for processing and things, but sometimes it's even in the moment, and you can kind of see it in this scene where I think he absolutely intended to kill them because they were driving him crazy, and then thinks like, again after he's, played the guitar, then breaks the guitar and then apologizes and and then suddenly he's like, oh, maybe I'm all in for this music thing, because it unleashed something within him or accessed something that he had not. And he talks about that, like how there's like all these weird ghosts and memories and things coming out because of this, and that's why he's exploring it. But yeah, there was definitely a moment there where I think they would have all died. And we see this in both in these episodes where he's just having a real hard time with impulse control.
Yeah,
Um, and he's feeling all the feels, doesn't know why he's feeling all the feels. And, I think he does talk about a couple of different things and he's doing it in a very humorous way, but there's pretty serious things that he is, as a person with the weight of that many years on him and those kinds of relationships and unresolved honestly unresolved things within him, within his psyche. He's he is definitely at this kind of inflection point, but and as humorous as he tries to pass it off, it's very serious trauma that he's really dealing with.
for sure.
So it's kind of it's funny, haha, but it's also like, ooh, this guy is going to, you don't know where it's going to take him next, and often it's a place of
Yeah.
like sincere regret after this is like kind of overtaken him.
And it
So
becomes clear that this is like a very public sort of therapy thing
yeah,
that he's undergoing with the
yep,
creating this band and then also making it a documentary, but also hiring Daniel Malloy to be the producer, or maybe not the producer, but the director of the documentary. And it becomes clear quite soon in this episode, Detroit, that the reason he did that is because he wants him to like correct every error that was in the interview with the vampire, perhaps,
yep.
but he's not really going around it about it in a straightforward
Oh
fashion.
no, and it's actually even more, you can maybe perhaps understand a little bit more why he may not have been so forthcoming with Louis, because the trauma of his life, his human life, was so bad, and there was a lot of terrible things that happened, and you basically, it's sort of like by correcting the record, it's almost like, oh, there's definitely this feeling where he's almost like, oh, this is just the tip of the iceberg, and maybe it's so hard and painful for him to deal with, that the flashbacks and that's how he's processing it, I think are almost as confusing and traumatic maybe as he may be feeling it. And I think they did a really good job of portraying that. And what an unraveling he is having, which I thought was just incredibly well done.
Yeah. And it's on stage at one of their show in Detroit where he has like a well, Sam Reed describes it in the after show as a breakdown, one of several apparently that he's having over the course of the season, and I'm sure I look forward to seeing the rest of them. And but as in due course, like he's about to murder Larry, who's his lead guitar, but then has like an emotional epiphany, and then as a result of that, just like really starts to feel the music and like has a really good show.
Yep.
Kind of enjoyed that sort of twist to what was about to happen. And then you kind of get into this baby Jenks element and that part of the story, which I also thought was pretty fascinating. And it goes to a very funny scene where he has we see her taking a bunch of drugs before the show starts. We then
Oh
see
yeah.
him draining her on stage, which his band still thinks is just a gimmick, but
Yep.
they are disabused of that later on in this episode. But then he's losing his mind and goes into his dressing room where Malloy is feeding off of one of his other groupies. And
Hmm.
then the question, the great line, he's like, "Who here has ever OD'd before?" And they
They
both
both
raise
raise
their
their
hands,
hand.
which is just funny. And
Mm.
then Sam Reed spends a few minutes in a chair looking up at the ceiling and conversing with probably just a hallucination of this person, baby Jenks, who is a plant. We'll find out
Yep.
soon enough. Um, and I really enjoyed the way that that story in the course of these two episodes comes around, like who she was sent by. Um, I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, when they tie, yeah, um she's an interesting, she's in the books too, I believe.
I remember that name, yeah, and the sort of the Fang Gang, but I think they've been redeveloped or
Yeah, they've been reimagined a little bit.
yeah.
So, but yeah, they use her as this interesting little side thing, which is kind of
Hmm.
fun.
Yeah. I mean, bringing back like the Claudia storyline,
Yep.
and that's going to get Louis involved and yeah, and presumably everybody. Anyway, that's a cool little element. But then, kind of for the rest of the episode, Lestat is all messed up on LSD and ecstasy. He keeps talking about them, even though I felt like more time had passed potentially, but I guess it was all still the same day from their show to maybe an after party
Mm.
to his interactions with uh Tim and Russ. Does that sound right? The two vampires with speaking lines who show up and try to I think they're trying to recruit him to their coven
Yes,
at that
that's what it
club
sounds
in the
like.
bathroom.
Yeah, either that or they're trying to lure him somewhere to punish him, which sounds more like likely.
Yeah,
Um,
because he is breaking a lot of vampire rules, which is why Louis got into a lot of trouble in season two. And so Lestat is doing that times 100
yeah.
here.
And it's really, this is, you know, they did a pretty good job, like where he's just in the moment and he's doing like and he's doing his whole performance, but he's still doing the mind melding thing with the vampires in the audience, which are these two, and they are everybody is very unhappy because they feel like he's outing their whole thing,
Wait,
and
what's different about what he's doing as the Vampire Lestat, the band, and what he was doing, and what all of them were doing in the Theater des Vampires in Paris?
so I think that the difference is that because of Louis' book. There is some confirmation that this is maybe not fake, and there's a lot of people who believe it's real. A lot of people think it's theater, so it's not as hidden as the theater was,
Hmm.
because people didn't know that that was real. That was like a hidden plain sight kind of a thing. But now he's going by the name that was in the book, so it's not like he's going by like Vampire Roger or something like that. And there is, and they talk about it in these episodes where he is putting on this. It's his band doesn't know he is. His lawyer definitely does, but they have a stunt double that goes a body double. That's him. That's Sam Reed, which I honestly didn't realize it was actually him.
It's hard to keep up with because Christine, the lawyer, talks very fast, but she's
Yeah.
telling him basically go to Arby's, order some drinks,
Appleby.
take or Applebee's, and take pictures with the fans. And like that's I think
Yeah.
Yarda's entire job is just to like go
Right.
out
Be
after the
out in the
show.
daylight to sort of make it like he's just an act, like it's whole just an act. So,
Yeah.
but we have the book and Louise in danger probably, and I would say Daniel Malloy might be in danger too. But there's the whole like kind of really like incredibly focused group of these covens that stand by these old laws. And so I think being out in public and flaunting it is just putting him right into the crosshairs. And so I don't think that they really want him to join them. I think they just want to kill
They
him.
would
So,
want to lure him somewhere
yeah,
to punish him. Yeah,
yeah,
very vampire-like.
yeah.
And so that kind of culminates in, and there's a lot of faffing about with Lestat's monologue and his reading his diary and scenes of gratuitous sex and talking about gratuitous sex and talking about how vampires actually do pee.
Yeah, that was
Cool,
fun.
I guess, it's fun. Yeah, it's fun detail. And it continues to drive that unreliable narrator stuff and to reassert that no, this is my story and in my story vampires pee. That's kind of stuff. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yep,
Um, but then it culminates in this big fight where he's like, and that was where he's like, I've got the blood of Akasha in me. I can take on,
yep.
30
And that's
vampires.
and then he says this a bunch of times that he has the blood of Akasha. And that's it's interesting because you'd also think that he would be a target where they would try to like mine his blood or something like that, right? So, but maybe it isn't common knowledge that he has it, and that's probably true
Sure.
too.
Yeah.
Um,
And
so,
he is kind of holding his own. It seems like
oh
he's able
yeah,
to
he
just
totally is.
toss them around. But then eventually Daniel Malloy and very unlikely Sam Barclay, the
Mhm.
playwright from the Theater of Vampires in
Yep,
Paris, shows up. He was wearing a Daft Punk DJ
yep,
helmet
yep,
downstairs, and then shows up and he's like, "Hello, I'm here. The Talamasca made me do it, or something." And then he disappears. I don't think we've seen him again after that scene. It was kind of odd.
yep.
But okay, so he'll be in the running so at some other point this season, we can assume. But so the fight scene ends with him bursting into the penthouse where his band is staying, and he kills
Man,
Tim the vampire
yep,
in front of them all, and he's looking all bloody and looking quite ghoulish because of the
yep,
injuries he's taken. Maybe because he was fed on himself.
yep.
He looks a little bit less like a little less glamorous.
Oh yeah, but he already was looking. I mean, he came out of the elevator after a bit of a is it a throuple with Baby Jenks and his person.
Yeah.
And one of the funniest things in the fight scene is when and I don't remember her name and she's one of
Oh
his
yeah, yeah. His groupie. I don't think we've been introduced to
yeah
them.
she they basically is
The mantra.
the mantra. It's like I'm looking for work-life balance and
Yeah, I'm succeeding
um
in work-life balance. I'm pursuing a job that is going to help me succeed in my
yes,
my career goals. I don't think we see them again after this episode either.
sure.
They've kind of been replaced by Gabriella, it feels like.
Yeah, and but anyway, but it's like it just goes like off the rails, and every time you think it's going to be oh, this is the pinnacle of the scene, and it just keeps going and going, and it's really honestly incredible when he comes into the room with the after party with his bandmates, and he's looking just savage and crazy, and he's wearing this like insane like silk corseted jumpsuit,
Yeah.
but he's like covered in blood. And they all see him as he's drained this guy and killed him, and then he just can't take it. Like, he's so overwhelmed, he jumps out the window and flies away.
And then
Um,
yeah, that's the end of that episode. And then he has to like answer for all of that with the
yeah,
band
which
in
is
the next one, which
amazing, which is amazing.
I really did enjoy that too.
The
And that's when
conversation with the
in that
band.
scene in the bus, I mean,
Yeah.
actually, no, that's not the end of the episode. The end of the episode is he goes to a motel
And he's
and
in a
then
really bad way, and that's
he's been texting a lot with somebody throughout the episode. I assumed it was Louis. And then I knew it wasn't going to be when she actually
yeah.
appears because of how much they were building up to it. But
Yep.
then it's actually Gabriella, who is being played by amazing actor
Oh, and
Lauren
Jennifer,
Jennifer L or
yeah, she's
Ayla.
amazing.
She I don't know what you consider her most famous for, but I think it's
Pride
Pride
and
and Prejudice.
Prejudice.
Yeah. I mean, she
Well,
was also in Contagion and a whole bunch of
I
stuff.
know, but that's what everybody really knows her from is that, and she's really great. So, anyway. But yeah, she makes her entrance at the end of the first episode here,
She was
and
on all the Shades of Grey movies,
she's been a lot. She's been in like Zero Dark 30.
King's
Um,
Speech.
yeah,
Yeah, she is an incredible actor. I was really happy that to see that it was her, but I was immediately thrown off when they start to passionately make out at the end of the episode.
yeah.
And you know, Lestat's voiceover is like, yeah, and we're also into incest and don't think too hard about it or
He
something.
calls it the Edipiphany, which is
The
really
Epiphany
like,
is how he begins the next episode. I love that.
yeah. Um, And so this is something that there's been, and you can't escape it if you are all like, this has been people just very upset about this particular piece that they've really leaned into. And I would say the interesting thing about Gabrielle in the books is actually that she feels like when she becomes a vampire, she becomes even more vampiric than Lestat. So in the way that Louis is considered to be very human, Lestat also has retained a little bit of that, or he feels inhuman to everybody else, but by comparison, Gabrielle is much more so alien in the book. Like she does not want to be, and I was surprised actually that they didn't get into this a little bit more, but she starts dressing like a man. She cuts her hair short as a man, like pretty quickly. Like she does not want to be viewed. She finds women's role in society, and she had found it like in her marriage just incredibly restrictive, and is so thrilled to have all this power and really revels in it.
That does come across. I mean, certainly the fact that she has no agency as a woman in a French
Right.
aristocratic household.
Right, but they're not portraying her. They're still portraying her to me like in a very like feminine way.
Yeah.
And she rejects all of that in the books and becomes like you can like Lestat revels in the fact like he's like, oh, you would never pick her out. Like she looks like any aristocratic man. And then she even goes further than that later on in the books, where she's like, well, why are we even kind of tied to these very human ideas of different things. So she rejects the idea of like sleeping in a coffin. She preferred just to be in the earth, and buries herself in there. And she actually like gives Lestat a very hard time for even living in the human world. She's like, we're gods above everybody else. So even his any of his participation in any kind of society, she finds it to be abhorrent. Or
Hmm.
at least she's sort of like, you could think beyond this kind of weird, it's a human society, not a vampire society. And they do play that up a little bit here, but not to the extent that they do in the book. So I thought that was an interesting choice that they made with her, and I can see why some people are pretty upset. And then the incest piece is really over the top.
There's a lot of it. I mean, we'll
And
see
there's
if
a
it
lot of
continues.
it. There's a
And
lot of
what
it
was
even
crazy
in
to
this.
me is that even starts when they were humans.
Right.
I mean, they have
They
have
have
a
a
weird relationship. They have a horrible family.
yep.
They're maybe the only two people in the family who can even remotely relate to each other. But she is cold and distant, and like I feel like they did a
Mhm.
good job throughout these scenes of these flashback scenes of 18th century France.
Yeah.
That was it really helped me, you know, like better frame their relationship and to have some expectations about what how she might behave in the present day or in the time when the story is being told anyway. And so there's a lot of scenes in this episode that are happening in the countryside of France in this horrible French aristocratic family. He first starts by talking about how many dead siblings he has. I think he has like seven dead siblings, and then he has two older brothers who are just horrible, like brutish, but also aristocratic idiots. And then his dad is a real jerk, and his mom seems to be buried in books because that's her only escape. And there's been this whole focus on his stutter as a child. Malloy keeps asking him that in the last couple episodes. What that's about, I'm not still sure what
Yeah.
Malloy's trying to get at.
Yeah, like he brings up the fact, and I mean, that's, you get the sense that there's like a lot of trauma related to his upbringing, and they show a lot of it here. Um, where, you know, the question that Malloy keeps asking him or saying that is getting a real reaction, and he keeps coming back to is like, did you stutter as a child? And that is triggers like a lot of pain for Lestat and goes back to his earliest self. And you know, and we see that stutter when he first sees his mother again. So that's
Oh
the
yeah, I didn't put that together. I just thought
yeah.
he was having a hard time
Nope.
talking because of what shape he was in. But yeah,
Nope.
that's true.
So there I'm sure that will be
Hmm.
playing out, but you know, they play out enough of how miserable their lives were um within this. And again, I have not read this book in a really long time, but I think most of the relationship between the two was just that they had common intellectual pursuits and were very much not like the rest of this family. Um, they were allies in this incredibly hurtful and horrible situation. So I'm not recalling this vibe that they're showing here, but again, they've chosen this interpretation, so
Well,
we'll have to
in the scene
see how it
after
goes.
he goes out and hunts those wolves and is, you know, almost killed, and she's like putting some sort of ointment on his wounds and then past his wounds. I think the maid who's watching and has that makes that face.
Yep.
She's the analog for the audience here.
Yep.
She's going,
Yep.
why? What is happening? And Gabriella, like, you know, is also she's trying to get him to get up and like, you know, embrace life again, maybe
Yep.
out of to spite his brothers and to feel the adulation of this mob of people who want to praise him. And I think that's why she's doing it. But yeah, there's obviously some other
Yeah.
stuff going on there.
Well,
It's
that brings us back to these other huge part of these books. This is a central story to Lestat becoming Lestat is the killing of the wolves. Like
mhm.
he's called Wolf Killer. He has like a whole like there's a whole coat or a cape they make out of these things. Like it's a huge deal. And it's very interesting that they decided not to show this. And it's to
Maybe it'll
me,
come back to it because
maybe, but
we
like,
don't see how he's made. We don't see what
right,
happens after the wolf incident and his return
right.
to Gabriella.
So we see, but they flash into when he's already become a vampire and
That's
he's
yeah, that's what I
a
mean.
vampire. So maybe this is just his incredibly traumatic recall because it was so traumatic. I mean, it kills his horse, or the wolves kill his horse. They kill his dog. I think there were more than one dog in the books, but I'm not remembering. But this is a central storyline and a sort of part of his becoming who he is both as a human and as a vampire. And um so this is I maybe we'll get back to that, but I was a little surprised that they showed that off camera and it we'll see what happens, but
Yeah, maybe.
it's but then, you know, we see the how miserable he and Gabrielle are in this house and to the point when they become vampires, they take out their vengeance.
Well, they've
So
already been talking. I mean, in that scene where she's putting the medicine on
oh
him,
yeah,
she's talking about how she wants to kill everybody in the
yep,
family, and he's also saying, "When I was killing the wolves, I was picturing
killing my
killing
family.
killing
So,
the family." And so they've already kind of admitted to each other that they really don't like, and that's in front of the maid also.
mhm.
They really really don't like their brothers slash children, father slash husband. And so it's no surprise how things go later on when he returns.
Yes. And then their bond obviously has continued through the centuries, and
But yeah, yes and no, right? Because he says to her in this
he
episode, "I've only
disappears.
seen you twice in the last century, and how
Mhm.
long are you going to hang out?" And she avoids answering that question.
Yeah.
So she's like I said before, when there's a scene of him getting his ass kicked by his brothers, and he's looking to her, and she's just
Yeah.
reading a book.
Yep.
And I think that is also quite instructional to how this
Mhm.
is going to be playing out. She is on the one hand, she refers to him as, you were my maker and I was coming to, and you were asking for help. She's also his mother and lover. It's, man, there's a lot going on
A
there.
big mess is what
Big
it is.
mess. So she has brought him back to the band after the motel scene at the end of season one, episode one, calling herself Sophia. And the first things that Lestat has to do after waking up in his bus is hear the various questions that his bandmates have now that they've realized that he actually is a vampire. And
Yep.
in this scene, I think Salamander might be my favorite character
He's pretty funny.
because he's just got a copy of the book in front of him, and
Yep.
every so often he'll be like, "So, do you have the fire gift?" And then the
I
book
know.
lights on
And
fire,
Lestat
and
just lights it up. But yeah,
or
it's funny.
does Sophia? I'm not sure if it was Lestat or his mom.
I don't know. But then the other part is like when he's interacting with all of them and he's so exasperated because he's just like, oh yes, I know I killed somebody in front of you, but now you all have to just get over it.
Yeah.
Like
And
there's
the
no,
lawyer is just like, "Hey, you guys signed NDAs."
and she's like, it's airtight and all. It's really funny.
It's a really fun
But
scene.
then Salamander, Lestat's like, I don't sleep with bandmates because Salamander's like, oh,
He looks a little sad, yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Just so the otherwise you in the band, the drummer, I think you described her as like a art school person. The two brothers, one of whom leaves the band potentially
hmm
forever in this scene, and the other one, Larry, who is formerly the front man, now seems like reinvigorated now that he knows Lestat's actually a vampire. Probably wants to be turned into a vampire. It's probably why
yeah,
he's like
yeah.
into the idea.
Feels like that. Yep.
But Lestat manages to keep the band together at least partially to go to Toledo for their next show.
Right.
And meanwhile, we've got all these scenes going back and forth in France. And what else is going on here is the lawyer summons him, Lestat, to a meeting with the owner of the hotel where the fight happened in episode one, a Mr. Pitt. And so, because he wants a fan, a one on like a special fan experience, I
Yeah,
think is how
that's
they describe
actually
it.
really funny.
Yeah. And then we cut to it's Louis and another vampire with Christine and Lestat in a conference room. And it's actually there's nothing fan experience about this because it's Louis.
Yep.
And instead it's like the two lawyers kind of talking about damages and liability. And
Right.
it's
And
a
all
very
this
funny
Scott
scene.
is really caring about is whether Louis is sleeping with Lemuel, the other lawyer, and then Louis asks about whether Lestat's sleeping with Christine, which he's like, yes. And it's just like a
And
very
she looks kind of happy that
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, she
I
does.
don't
Like
think they are sleeping together. He's talked about it in his voiceover, but I thought he said he didn't do it.
I don't know. It's
But either
anyway,
way, it's that exasperation that Sam Reed brings to this
yes.
performance that is just it's quite relatable in a weird way, but
Yes.
also then it's just an enjoyable performance.
Oh yeah, and then it's very much this spat between exes and how hurt Lestat is, and there's just a lot of betrayal and things going on in this room, and they're still acting out. I mean, like obviously they still care about each other because we see even in the next scene after this where Lestat's performing and he's gotten Louis tickets and Louis like watching from the balcony, and Lestat's just like throwing it in his face. Like he even gives him the copy of Interview with the Vampire with all his copy with all the things that are outlined. And we've seen a few pieces of this because he's like lies, more lies. And it's like so he's actually delivered this to Louis as I think um this I don't even know what you would call it.
Well, it's like him showing
Evidence,
him that he
accusation.
really hurt his feelings and that he disagrees with everything that's in the book.
But yet they're still talking.
Yeah.
But this also helps lead to the interaction between Louis and Daniel Malloy. Although even this thing that we see, Lestat's doing the voiceover and
It's
says,
funny
"Well, this
too.
could just be fake, but and this maybe it didn't happen in a restaurant, but I get to cover this because this is my telling and et cetera, et cetera." So you don't even know whether whatever this is has actually happened. So or in the way that is happening. But in this little interaction between Daniel and Louis, you've got Louis basically almost leveling the same exact things that Lestat has been saying to him, which is that this he didn't have permission, this wasn't how he should have been portrayed, that it was a bunch of lies. So it's kind of interesting. And then in this piece, Daniel confesses that he keeps feeling Armand and it was, in having kind of weird hallucinations. And Louis is like, yeah, that's weird. But then starts talking about Claudia, and that he's been seeing her.
Oh yeah, that he saw her
Um,
in New York or in a bar or something or in a night
right.
diner.
So there's lots going on within this little interaction. But there's it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out with Daniel. And I guess part of me is this is the part I am confused about. I guess don't believe that Lestat would let this person be anywhere near him unless I mean, maybe he views it as a way of writing the record, but it just feels like he would not tolerate having him that close. So either he has a term plan for punishing Daniel, or views him as just using him for his own devices, I guess. But that does feel weird to me in this that he would have Daniel be this close, especially given the fact that Armand made Daniel. So,
True.
um, so anyway,
And that happened at that like epiphany happened at the end of last season, but we didn't see the making as I
we
recall.
didn't, but
Okay.
I mean, but Daniel acknowledges it to Louis and asks if Louis had that with Lestat, and Louis says no. You know, we'll have to see how this plays out. Obviously, from the first episode, Armand has been through it, so maybe we'll find out more about that. Um, but this is off to a great and messy and disaster-laden start, and I guess part of me is like, how much more insane can it get if this was the first couple of episodes?
Yeah, it's a lot.
So,
Um, and I really liked I love the guy playing Raglan James. I think we've talked about him before when he
yeah.
showed up, and he's doing a kind of over the top performance of this character, which I like a lot. And yeah, putting Louis on that crash course with Bruce, the Danish vampire, I think
Mhm.
is a
Yep.
really fun way to get like the third episode action going and feeling like there's stakes here that date back to
Yeah.
way back in the early, I don't know what, like the 1950s or 40s.
Yeah. And we kind of knew or thought that that storyline would come back, Bruce being the vampire that had abused Claudia so horribly. And so this is the one thing that probably would have gotten Louis to be like hooked in, and they did it really well. Um, so we'll have to see. And it's interesting commentary too, which is the commentary that the Talamasca or the company or whatever it is doesn't do the dirty work. They do cleanup, and there's too
Yeah.
much for them to clean up. And the other thing I thought was interesting is that Louis' empire of hotels and restaurants and all of that, it's massive, and so much so that Lestat didn't even know that Louis was like an investor in some insane amount of profits for his tour, like merch and everything else.
I find
So
it hard to believe that Lestat has investors in
yeah,
his
me too.
merch,
Me
or that
too.
he would need them
I don't
because
think he would because he's like really
yeah,
wealthy.
he's
So
wealthy enough that I don't think he'd need to sell a stake in anything that he's
right.
doing.
But that
But
could have
you
just
know,
been the
it's
lawyer
still
doing it.
funny that Louis, who has become this, master investor, like art
Right.
appreciation, all these like his whole empire, that he would have bought a stake. Yeah, that's just another knife to twist, right?
Right. But really enjoying the show, and I think that the glam rock of it all and the commentary and the writing is really
Yeah,
great.
how are you liking the music? I think we've heard three different songs.
So I I think that it's very on point with what Lestat would do, and it also makes sense that like it's not good. Like
Oh, I don't know. It's not it's
it's
not bad
good,
to
but it's
listen
not
to.
but he's having trouble filling big arenas. Like he only does these
Yeah.
little like theaters and he wants
That was a
huge
funny line that
seats.
Daniel Malloy also gives him. He's like, who are the two? He's like Jelly Roll and Post Malone are doing a show at this stadium for 60,000 people, and you just did a show for 800. I don't think you're like living the dream.
Right. And Lestat even owns this up. Like he wants so many people, and he says this in his little like interchange with Baby Jenks, where he's like, I want billions of people to love me. And she's like, oh, is that going to fill the hole? And you definitely like it's a really poignant little exchange because that is what we've seen about him all along is that nothing is going to fill whatever void is there. And
Mm.
that void has been there from the beginning of his existence. So, as a human. And so it's I think there's going to be a great examination of that. And I think that the music is something that you could definitely see that he's trying to say different things with it. And that's also a little bit of what's coming up is that he's saying things and talking about things that humans aren't fully getting, but the vampires are, which is why they're so mad. So I think that that's gonna like I think they do a good job at making him into this kind of character icon. And it's pretty funny. And even the way they're using it in the scenes between him and Louis when he levitates up to give Louis to throw the book at Louis is it's really good. So
Yeah, yeah.
and how they're using it as a mechanism for some of his more emotional outbursts, including the one on stage where he almost kills Larry because of the because Larry's like cramping his style and then he just switches. Is it's pretty incredible. So I just think they're doing a phenomenal job. I think Sam Reed and Jacob Anderson are really, really, really good. A strong cast overall, but I'm really enjoying them and their interactions so
Yeah.
much.
No, I'm really not regretting picking up this show. Obviously, I don't think there was any chance of us not watching it, but I'm enjoying it a lot. I have, however, been also unable to stop myself from watching Silo season 3, which has been a kind of a banger.
Well, I'm not because
I'll rewatch it when we talk about it, but yeah, it's
okay.
just I couldn't stop myself.
I was
Um,
trying to hold it out, but I guess I can watch it. So,
well, the challenge will be,
yes,
you
I
know,
know.
the challenges.
I
Well,
do.
I think that's it though for the first two episodes of the Vampire Lestat, or season 3 of Interview with the Vampire, depending on how you look at it. Like, it's interesting that they haven't. It's not a spin-off. They're just calling the third season a different name. It would be like Grey's Anatomy changing to, like Johnson's Anatomy, for one season, just because they changed the POV. And I think that that's like a fascinating way to do a show.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So, really, I actually am enjoying this. I liked Interview with the Vampire, and I love that, but I'm almost enjoying this more. It's almost like they hit their stride with it. So I'm curious to see how the rest of it kind
Yeah,
of,
for sure.
yeah.
If you are or have watched it, let us know what you think. You can email us at reanimatedpodcast@gmail.com. And we do appreciate getting your emails. Always nice to read what people think. So give us a holler. And we will be back again next time with two more episodes of the Vampire Lestat.
Indeed. And thanks so much for listening. If you're enjoying the show as much as we are. And until next time, bye bye.
Bye.